Welcome to the Virtual Antics, your go-to podcast for digital entrepreneurs, powered by Nandora.org and NG Virtual Assistant. We're here to guide you through every aspect of business, from networking to lead generation and so much more. Get ready to thrive in the virtual world with expert insights and our all-in-one solution, Nandora, where creating a digital business becomes a breeze. Let's dive in and revolutionize your business journey together. Welcome back to the Virtual Antics podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Guzman, and today I'm so excited because I have Ashton with me, who is a creative entrepreneur passionate about spreading the concept that drawing can be used as a thinking tool. Welcome, Ashton. How you doing?
I'm doing so great, Natalie. Thanks so much for having me on today.
Hey, I'm so happy you're here. So tell us a little bit about what you do and how you got started.
Yeah, so I am a professional doodler or a live illustrator. So I often find myself at conferences, in boardroom meetings, helping nonprofits and visualizing their conversations, information, presentations. So if you can picture this, pun intended, either if I'm in the room or virtually, I have my paper or my digital screen. And as that conversation is unfolding or as that presentation is happening, I am drawing out and capturing those key concepts in real time. So my goal is at the end of that half an hour, at the end of the day, you have a visual representation of what was just communicated or what was just discussed. So if you can picture this combination of words and illustrations that sort of are weaved all through. So yeah, most people consider themselves visual learners. Folks, I always say like YouTube is the biggest search engine or the second largest search engine in the world for a reason, because people like to see things unfold. So yeah, it's been a beautiful journey. I've been doing it for 10 years, and I started building a business about 3 years into that. Up until those first 3 years, it was basically a secret business. So technically, I had a business, but it was a secret one. I didn't tell anybody about it. And then about 3 years in, I was like, yeah, I should probably tell people that I have a business so I can actually get clients and do this full time. So yeah, it's been a beautiful journey between working 100% in person and traveling all over the world to do this. And when COVID hit, moving everything virtually and staying predominantly virtual since then. So yeah, they're very quick and short story of my business life there for you.
Oh, that's awesome. And such a cool profession, because I'm sure you love to draw. And I feel like it's one of those passionate, jobs that I always feel like people are either put into, especially entrepreneurs. We have jobs either because we have a passion, we love it, and we follow it through, or we get put in a scenario where it's like do or die and we have to have a business. And so we choose one. That's how I got started.
Mm.
And so was that where I was kind of thrust into it. And then there's other entrepreneurs that kind of create it. And so I think that's such a cool business that you have. Now, you said that you went digital. So how was that transition from going in person and traveling all over the world and then being mainly online?
It was absolutely terrifying. I'm not going to lie. When I finally had gotten to a place in 2020 where, unfortunately, in this type of service-based business, it's very time sensitive and people don't always book you like a year in advance. Like I got a request today for something that's happening in 4 weeks. Like it's very you never really know what's going to be coming, and I have ended up having like busy seasons and quiet seasons. Like spring and fall are always like really crazy, and summer and like January, February, and December pretty quiet. But it's it's very kind of piecemeal, unfortunately, when it's like so event based and time based. And so I finally had gotten to a point in 2020. I messaged all my clients in January and said, all right, people, like, let's get this going. Let's book us in so that like your event in October, I'm like ready to go. Anyway, so I finally was in this beautiful place where I had almost like $100,000 worth of work booked for the year. And I was feeling so amazing about it. And then, of course, March happened and I basically lost all those contracts. I didn't feel good about holding my clients hostage in the contract. It just didn't feel good to me. because I have really good relationships with some of these clients, and I didn't want to, charge them cancellation fees because of a world falling apart. You know what I mean? Like, it was nobody's fault. So I had lost all those contracts, and I basically sat around feeling sorry for myself for about 2 weeks. And then I was like, I'm not going to let this little thing called a pandemic take me out. So I decided, okay, I'm going to reach out to some of those clients or past clients and new people and just be like, at the time there was a lot of people moving everything, like their conferences virtually. And I was like, okay, well, conferences is like low hanging fruit for me. I'm just going to start reaching out to past clients and new folks and just be like, hey, like, what can I do to help support your virtual event? Can I draw this virtually? And now you have a digital version instead of me being in person and having this like large and in charge illustration. And actually worked out pretty decent for me. Of course, there was like, a few lulls during sort of that first year and a half, like 20 into 2021. But people have, I've been able to retain a lot of those like past clients and new ones and be able to stay virtual for the most part. I have been traveling a little bit more locally, but kind of staying more in my, like, within a 5-hour drive, basically. But not really getting on a whole lot of planes lately. I didn't realize how stressful the travel was until I didn't have to do it anymore. So I've just been very cautious in what I take on for jobs that I have to travel long distances for. Like, if it's I'm not going to go for 1 day if I have to travel for 2, that's 3 days kind of thing. So yeah, it was kind of like, using your words from earlier, like it was kind of do or die for me. And I am a pretty adamant person that I was not going to let this pandemic be the death of me. And luckily my client base had money. So I work in a lot with technology folks, and they were doing really, really well during the pandemic. So it's not like they were struggling when it came to the finances. So part of it was my tenacity, I think, and part of it was my client base. If I would have had a completely different client base, then I would maybe be singing a different tune. But I just ended up over the years kind of falling into technology more so by accident. And I've been working a lot in technology since 2017 when I really started building my business. So it's kind of a combination of the two of them. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was in industry as well that during the pandemic it blew up, and actually I went from being like one of the only virtual assistant agencies to now all of these virtual assistants and virtual assistant agencies.
Right.
But also the amount of businesses that opened that year is absolutely insane, and that almost all of them were digital based. I think we saw like a really cool shift in people realizing that they can build their dream businesses online, and then they got help from a virtual assistant. And so even though the pool of virtual assistants got bigger, there was so much in demand business that it was absolutely insane. I think we definitely got like an extra 100,000 that year. So and it's just been on a upwards trajectory. So that's really cool too, is that it just keeps growing, right? And so the amount of tech and digital businesses, and it's just been really interesting. We were talking about Zoom earlier before this recording, and I was talking about the privacy policies and stuff like that. Another thing Zoom did recently that I thought was interesting was that they actually told all their employees that they now have to work in the office. And Zoom is one of the biggest companies that let us work from home. So I thought that was super, super interesting. But I feel like it was kind of their stance saying that the digital world is growing. They're trying to bring people back in person. But that's awesome that you were able to do that pivot so well. And one of the things that you mentioned, which I think is key, is that you reached out to people that you knew, and you reached out to new clients too. And you just, tell me how that went. Like, what did you say? Was it email? Was it on Facebook? Because I think people don't realize how simple it can be to get clients. Like, we're looking for like the newest and biggest ways. So tell me
Yeah.
a little bit more about your process when it came to that.
I will. I want to just piggyback on something that you said about like the Zoom folks going back to office before I forget. Like, I think part of my job that has been great also to actually stay virtual is that I think sometimes my clients, part of the reason why they hire me is because I help humanize the the event or whatever. So even though people are virtual in a conference, or if it's hybrid or what have you, they have this extra added element that's different and new and engaging. And there's like, oh, there's like someone on the other side of the world, like literally drawing things out, and it like helps humanize it. So I think, if you're a company out there, like, I think there is a little market for helping, like, things virtual are not going away anytime soon. So what can you do to help like humanize those experiences and make them really unique and add a lot of value to it? So anyways, put a pin in that for now. But yeah, so I really heavily leaned on my relationships. So I Okay, so a couple different things. So one of them is LinkedIn. So I kind of went through LinkedIn, like who have I met at a conference? Who do I know who's organized conferences in my circle but haven't become a client yet? Sometimes some of my clients also organize different events, like they're doing multiple. So I kind of started leaning in on my past clients first. And then the next level were some of those people that weren't clients, but I'm they might have seen me at an event. Because for me, unfortunately, there's an education piece to my service. People have to understand the value of it in order to put, some big dollars behind it. And I'm not just there to like draw a pretty picture. I'm there to help educate, to help people connect deeper to that information, to help people learn, to help people remember that information and hopefully apply it to their business and life or in their workplace, right? So like if you haven't seen it for information that you've listened to, it's a harder sell. So for me, it was really important to try to find those people who have experienced what I've done in the past. And they go, oh, yeah, I remember when you drew the thing and it was so cool. And like, to me, that's like an easier sell in the sales process. Now I can just talk about, why was it that you liked it? And tell me more about that. And it was more of a conversation instead of this hard sales process, because I'm just not a fan. Like, if you don't want to hire me, don't hire me. Like, it's all good. I'm not going to, shove my service down your throat and send you like a million emails. But so that was sort of one way that I reached out to folks. And I think I just spent days and days in front of my computer, just messaging people and chatting with people back and forth. And then the other way actually is a lot of cold outreach. When I started my business, I did a lot of cold outreach and, got a decent amount of success with that. So like the first job I ever had to get on an airplane for was from a cold outreach. And the funny thing about them is they weren't I want to say they weren't the ideal client, but they weren't like the ideal profile. Like they had never even seen it before. They had never seen a live illustrator before, and they still hired me to go. And I am so grateful to them that they took a chance on me. And I was absolutely terrified during that whole job, but it was a tech conference. So it really kind of helped spiral things from there and a snowball, I guess. And yeah, so cold outreach worked for me in the past. So, and I had let up on it a lot because I was busy. I didn't have an assistant at the time, and I just didn't have the time and capacity to do it. And which was good. Like I was busy working. So I did a lot of emails. I researched conferences that were like in similar niches that I've worked in or similar industries, because then I could speak to like, oh, hey, I did a conference in your exact industry, and here's some examples of some of those drawings. So, it was a little bit more of a spray and play, like, but every once in a while you'd catch one and you just can never guess and estimate what that's going to be like. And I keep my emails very friendly. They're very informal. And they're just like, hey, I do this thing. If you want to chat about it, that'd be cool. and just get on calls with people and just talk about it. And I want them to have the Ashton experience. I want them to get to know me, and I want to get to know them to make sure that they're fun and easygoing, because that's like my ideal client. They're like fun and easygoing. So if they're not, then I don't want to work with them either. So I ended up getting a lot of clients. I think I did a pie chart. I like data when it comes to my business. I can't remember the exact number, but it was a good half of my business from 2020, I believe, came directly from cold outreach, which is pretty
Wow.
wild to think about. Yeah. And I hate the phone, so I'm not going to call you. I'm like a stereotypical millennial. I don't want to call you. I'm not going to call you, but I'll send you an email. Send you an email, just say, hey, this is what I do. And sometimes I would catch those people where they would respond and be like, oh my gosh, I saw this at a conference 4 years ago and I never knew what it was called. Yes, let's hop on a call and see. Right. So sometimes I would hit those people, like maybe they didn't see me do it, but they experienced it. And that's sort of the extra special part of like not knowing when you're sending out cold outreach. And people, I think, are very afraid of getting those emails back, like, never email me again, you're spamming me, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't get those responses. Either they respond friendly, they respond with like a kind, no, thank you, or they just don't respond, which is the majority of them. They just don't respond.
Yeah.
There's been very, very few over the years of when I did a lot of cold outreach that they emailed and were like, if you ever email me again, I'll report you, but nothing's ever come of it. Because it's not the way that it's written is very, like, I researched the conference. I speak about what I like about it, what I've seen that they've done in the past. They're very personalized, so they do take a little extra time. And I'm just saying, I'm asking for a phone chat, but I'm not like shoving my service down their throat like some of those other like spammies, like those emails you get, like, your website is not optimized, you're losing clients. I'm like, go away. Like, even if it's not optimized, I don't want to work with you because like you're making me feel bad about myself. Like, I'm not writing them saying, if you don't hire me, all your attendees won't remember anything, like, I'm not like that. So
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn, when I was looking at my LinkedIn inbox, I probably have like 70 messages of cold outreach on there. But my
yeah.
email, I don't get as many there. So we've actually been testing LinkedIn versus email with cold outreach. And
Mm,
I've seen better rates with email than LinkedIn. I just feel like because LinkedIn is flooded right now
yeah. Yeah.
with the cold messaging. Do you find that, or what are your opinions on that?
I'm not finding a whole lot of well, I don't get cold outreach. Like, I don't get cold emails a lot in email. Like, well, I guess I kind of do. I do get those, like, those, if your website's not optimized, I do get a decent amount of those, but a lot of them just end up in spam because I think of how they're written. But I
Yeah.
find the way that mine is written is just like a regular email. They don't hit people's spam as much. I used to do a lot of tracking, like, did these people open this email? You can see they opened it yesterday at 3 o'clock. Like, I used to track a lot of that, but it's just too time consuming to worry about. So I don't really pay attention to those anymore, but I don't really do a lot of cold outreach anymore. Um, and yeah, I do find I get some from LinkedIn, but you can tell because they're not a connection, right? If someone connects with you and then they pitch you right away, like, okay, yeah, that's one thing. But if someone's connected with you and you've been in connection with them for a couple of years and you like comment on their stuff every once in a while, they're not really a cold anymore, right? They're like warmed up a bit. So yeah, I think there's like like, you can sense the different vibe if it's written by an actual person or if it's just like copy and pasted. And yeah, so and I don't pay attention to Facebook, to be honest with you. And I just have been paying a little bit more attention to Instagram, more so because I've doing a pivot in my business where I'm more educating people on how to do what I'm doing, like, for themselves. So I'm kind of in a transition space in my business where I still want to do the live illustration, but I'm just kind of holding back the reins on like marketing that and talking more about like my book that I have, my community, and that kind of thing. So my channels and the way that I've been doing things recently has changed from when I first started and all through the pandemic kind of thing. But yeah, not sure how to answer that question exactly, but like, yes, I still get some in each, but I don't seem to get totally overloaded actually with cold outreach in LinkedIn. And I used to just accept everybody, but now I don't. I don't accept everybody anymore on LinkedIn, because if they are like a business coach, I'm probably not going to accept you on LinkedIn. I'm sorry. Because I'm like, we don't have any people in common. And like, you're like, you need help with your business. I'm like, how do you know I need help with you don't know anything about me. Like, maybe I'm fine. Thank you. Like, maybe I already have 10 business coaches, like, go away kind of thing. So I don't like when I feel like someone's making an assumption about my business in that way. I'm like, ew, that's yucky.
You don't want to feel attacked. It's like I feel like a DM is like you're knocking on someone's home, right? When that person opens the door, are you going to be like, you need this because your business sucks? Like, I'm not going to slam my door in your face. I think if we treat it, like you said, like a casual conversation, like, hey, I'm your neighbor and I brought pie. Like, how are you doing? Just want to introduce myself. I feel like, you're not going to get a door shut in your face when you're acting like a human, as you said. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. And I thank you so much for coming on the show. How can we find you and more about your services?
Yeah, so kind of two ways. If you got an event or conference and you want to chat about what that look like to have some live illustrations for it, you can find me at mindseyecreative.ca. And if you kind of type in Mind's Eye Creative in my name, it's kind of unique. Just you'll find me on all the things. And if you are like, this is kind of interesting, I wonder what it would look like for me to learn how to draw my own notes. I have a book that I just released called The Beginner's Guide to Sketchnoting, emphasis on the beginners, because you don't have to be an artist. You only know how to draw your own notes. I'll teach you all through the book. And my community, and have a free weekly newsletter that goes out on Saturdays with a sketchnoting tip each week. And all that information can be found at sketchnote.school.
Awesome. I'll make sure I put that in the show notes as well. But thank you so much for coming on the show, Ashton. We'll see you guys next time.